Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Masked Monologues. I'm so excited to have Pamela here with me. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us about what you do.
Oh, and thank you for having me. This is brilliant, actually. And just the fact that it's actually an audio pod, because I know some people actually record the visual as well. This is great because it's in my area, in my field, in a way. So I'm Pamela Kay from Intuitively Speaking. I'm from the UK and I'm actually an intuitive and spiritual voice and accent coach, psychic medium, card reader, and author. I've written lots of things that I've actually performed myself, solo pieces, but I'm currently writing a book called The Quiet Child based on how I grew up because I was always a quiet child. Yeah, that's sort of me, really. That's what I do. I'm a voice coach. I've been doing it for just over 10 years now. Before that, my background's in acting. I'm still a UK equity member. It seemed like a natural progression to me to move on to the voice aspect because voices are so important. They are part of our identity, and
No,
that's what we.
no, thank you so much. I love your book. It sounds intriguing. Quiet Child. Yes. Can you tell me why you decided to write a book on speaking? Because you said you started out as an actress, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
did you go from acting to focusing more on voice and communication?
Of course, acting is communication, and actors need to use their voices. But I've always been fascinated by the way we use our voices and what the voices can do, and what we can do if there's a problem with the voices, we take them for granted until something goes wrong. So I was always fascinated about the voice, about the breath, and how it's all connected because everything starts with the breath, frankly. If we didn't have the breath, we wouldn't be here. And it's the same thing with breath. We don't use it to its full potential or capacity. Now, where the voice is concerned, as I say, moving from acting, when I'd go on stage, I remember one time I had a really awful laryngitis, which is a vocal condition, and your voice is really bad, and you shouldn't really speak. That's the whole point. When you have an issue with your voice, and if it's painful, you shouldn't speak. But I needed to because I was actually responsible for the production. I was going around performing in a solo production of Talking Heads at the time. So I couldn't let the audience down. So I carried on doing this performance, reached much deeper inside, more deeply than I thought it could reach. I knew that it could reach that deep inside, that well inside, and it comes from inside and the breath. But because I had laryngitis, it really did go deep inside, and I found that I was still able to do the performance, and it seemed to add a bit of depth to it, to the actual voice itself, because you're working on a different level. Now, after that, I realized that I'd probably done a bit too much damage because I got soft nodules, and they can develop into much harder nodules where you would need an operation on your voice. But I was lucky that I caught it, and I was given lots of exercises to do. So it's about now me going to people and saying, this is what you need to do to look after your voice. Hydrate, always sip water. Don't glug it, but always sip water. When in the mornings, when you wake up, if you get that little bit of catarrh, which people do, the phlegmy things, and you clear your throat, you shouldn't clear your throat because that's rubbing the vocal cords together, and it's causing friction, and it's a perpetual cycle. When you start to speak, how many times have you, just before you started to speak, or heard somebody just before they're starting to speak, go clear their throat? Now, you shouldn't be doing that because, again, it causes friction, and you find that you want to do it and do it more. So it becomes habitual. And that's the other thing with voice. We grow up with people telling us what they think our voices sound like. And if they think it sounds lovely and beautiful, then great. We're all human. We all have different voices, and we should all rejoice in the voice that we have. If you grow up thinking or being told that you've got to be quiet, or you rather be seen and not heard, or God, that's a terrible sound that comes out of your mouth, especially when you're singing, because that's even more exposing, that's going to have an effect on the way you view your voice and indeed the way you view yourself. And this is the other thing about working with the voice, because the voice is so personal. It's part of you, it's part of your identity. Like accents, they are part of you, they are part of your identity. So when somebody says disparaging remarks as you grow up, that sits inside you. And the body does keep the score. The mind keeps the score. It keeps it going. You're always thinking that I haven't got a very nice voice, so I'd rather not speak. The amount of times students have said to me, I don't like my voice. When you ask why, it's pretty much always to do with the fact that when they were growing up, they were told that the sound that came out of their mouth wasn't very pleasant.
No, I
So,
completely relate to everything you're saying there because I'm also a singer-songwriter, so I'm a vocalist, and just with the vocal training, not liking your voice, always wanting
mhm,
to change it, and then having those good practices because as you said, there are those risks of vocal nodules. You don't
yes,
wanna overwork your voice, so you don't wanna be doing scales morning, noon, and night if you're
no.
not doing them the correct way, that can be damaging, and also just give yourself a break in the hydration, like, I drink water all the time.
Yes, you can hear when something's not quite right, but sometimes, unless somebody actually says, this is what's wrong with my voice, or this is why this sounds like this, I think it's quite, you don't go and say to somebody, oh God, what do you sound like now? What's going on? You don't do that. But people do. And this is the effect that it has as you're growing up. And of course, male and female voice are different. And this is addressing in some ways in my book. As I say, I'm starting to write it. And the thing about this book is that because I'm used to writing characters and being behind the characters, being the characters, doing that, you're hiding, you're hiding. But with this, the quiet child, I'm not hiding. So that's different for me. When I started training as a voice coach, because I said, I wanted to try and find my voice so I could help others find theirs. And I've been doing this for over 10 years now. And it's a lifelong process, frankly.
Yes, and I'm wondering, do you work specifically with actors and actresses, or are you open to singers, or what type of voice coaching do you do? Because I know there's a lot of people who are more musical and focus on the singing, and then there's people who help with presentations and public communication and just finding your voice for doing that.
Yes, yes, it does exist, actually. I was very lucky because our training involved both the speaking and singing voice. Having said that, I deal mainly with the speaking voice. Now, I work with actors, professional and non professional. I help train future performers, and future actors. But I also work with people who just want to connect more to their voices and to themselves, and who just want to be more confident speakers, who just want to know how to stand up in front of people and open their mouth and get their sound out. I work with many different people, and more recently, I started working much more with the spiritual and more deeply intuitive aspects of the voice as well, because we are sacred human beings. We have sacred voices, and we should treat ourselves and our voices as such. They are precious. We are precious. So I've now been starting to include a lot more of the spiritual elements to it as well. Or told from above that I needed to change my name. I needed a different name. My name is Pamela Kay. Okay. And it is just me. But I was told I needed to change the name from Speak the Speak Studio to something else. Hence the reason now it's intuitively speaking. I am in the process, I have got a website, but I'm in the process of building it up and incorporating all of these aspects. What happens is when I teach now, I always ask for guidance, I always have, but much more so now. I ask for guidance from above. I suppose the technical, the theoretical with the spiritual, the creative with the intuition. I'm fusing all of these things now, and it brings so much more depth to what I do. Gives my clients, my students, so much more of a profound experience. And I've actually been told that some of the meditations, because I connect into the chakras, I get them to connect into all their energy points as well as connecting to their voices, which actually makes their voices stronger, makes them stronger. So what happens is that you change the relationship with your voice, and therefore you change the relationship with yourself. We release blocks because any tension anywhere in the body creates tension in the voice. But this goes much deeper. It goes right into the soul, right into the core. And that's what I've been doing actually more recently because I've been nudged to go into that direction. It really has changed the experience for both myself and my students and clients, whatever you want to call them. So, yes, it's all about the breath. It's all about connecting more deeply, more intuitively, and more spiritually to yourself.
And
And
when you talk about the soul, are there small little mindset shifts that you make with your clients, or how do you approach this process? I'm assuming because you're thinking about the mind, the body, the soul, and just being confident in your voice.
yeah, the thing is, when you train, you get all the little the things in your toolkit. I know about the technical aspects of the voice. That's what we are taught, the technical aspects, how the skeleton, the bones, how the breath connects to the voice. You need to know all of that when you're teaching voice because you have to teach it in a safe way. You have to know that you're helping the students to get the best out of their voice, and it all starts with the breath. What I do is take it more a bit deeper than that. Yes, it is starting with the breath because the first thing we do is a foundation, really, no matter what we do, it's the foundation. The foundations need to be in place. So what we do is we always get our students, our clients, I always get my clients and my students just to lay on the floor and recognize where their tensions are. And we go through and we release all of those tensions. Now, you won't believe how difficult that can be for some people because the kind of society we're in is all rush. So it's all to do with the foundational stuff first. So we just get them to do that. And once they allow themselves or give themselves permission, then it's a case of really starting to dive in, connecting, feeling that touch of sound within, feeling that touch with going deeply within your energy points. We do body scans and we go into all the energy points. And I let them be in these energy points for a while because that brings up other things and it does get emotional. Emotions can come to the surface. Now they can come to the surface without me going much more deeply inside. But because I do that, it's even more, and it really gets them thinking about really what their voice means to them. Because as I say, we take it all for granted. But when you're actually asking somebody to say, okay, so what does your voice mean to you? Then they start to go, oh, okay, I've never been asked to do that before. I don't really know. So I'm asking them to think about it. And then I'm asking them to connect with the emotions that it brings up. I'm asking them to connect with the thoughts and the feelings, all these things that it brings up. And we work through that. So we do have all the exercises. We do the releasing, the touching of sound, getting physically ready, all of these exercises, expansion of breath. We do all of that throughout the classes. If I have individual clients, private clients, which I do, it just depends on what they are after, what they're asking for. Because everyone is individual, even in a class, everyone is individual, everyone learns differently, everyone gets the same information, but they receive it in different ways. A plateau is hit, a plateau is reached, and it doesn't feel like anything is going in. But I've always said, your body is remembering what it needs to remember.
Yes.
And suddenly it'll drop in.
And now I want to ask you a bit about your training to become a vocal coach for anybody who might be interested in becoming one. How long does it take and what education do you need?
So mine was a master's in professional voice practice. So that means it's above degree level. So you have your first degree and then you get the master's.
No, go ahead.
So this is a master's, and if you come over to the UK, it will be an MS, whereas if you're from the UK, it's like an MA, a Master of Arts. So there are more people doing it, but it's a bit of a niche thing. And during the training, we get to learn the techniques of different practitioners like Kristen Linklater, Barbara Houseman, Patsy Rodenberg, Cicely Berry, different practitioners. So we get a thorough grounding in their methods. And of course, you take their methods and as you go on, you adapt them for yourself in your own way. So this is what we do. Now, mine took a year. You can do it part time. Mine took a year and it's really pretty intensive. Really intensive because you're dropped in there. What I had to do to get on the course, I had to actually audition. You had an interview, but you also had an audition where you had to learn a couple of speeches. You can come from different backgrounds because you all add something different. But the thing is that you need to have that real sense of inquiry. Want to help people to find their voices. You have to have that passion because if you do it half-heartedly, it's not going to work. And that's what I've always found. I've had to have a passion for it because it's really hard work and there's a lot of it. But it's one of the best things I've done because it consolidated everything. We worked on the technical aspects, the physical aspects, Shakespeare, prose, poetry, all of these things we worked on. Accent, because I'm a voice and accent coach in the US. They're called dialect coaches, but there is a difference for us. We differentiate between accent and dialect. So, yeah, I'm a voice and accent coach. So I coach accents as well as helping people to connect to their voices. It's a master's degree. It's hard work. It's a year minimum, but you can do it part time, normally over a couple of years. And it covers a whole range of different things during that course. And you also do a placement. That placement is to help you get out there, actually put it all into practice. We would get practice anyway because we would be working what was the Birmingham School of Acting in the UK, now known as the Birmingham Conservatoire. So of course you have actors training there anyway. We used to get to be able to work with the actors while they were training, while they were doing their productions. We used to get to work with them individually as well as in rehearsal form. But you had a placement. You have a placement where you either go and work at a drama college, performing arts college, university, whatever, or with theatre companies or at a theatre or whatever. That's your placement. So you can put everything into practice. And there's a lot of journaling, a lot of reflection. I did my placement at the New Globe in London. And it was just like, oh, what do you want to do? Oh, actually, I'd really love my placement to be at the Globe. And the next minute, I found myself there. It's like, what happened here? So that was fantastic because I got to work with the actors on professional actors. I got to observe what they were doing, observe what voice coach was doing at the Globe. And it was a great experience. And I got to work on productions, Titus Andronicus and Antony and Cleopatra at that time. So it was fantastic. It really was fantastic, but it is a lot of work.
That's amazing. I'm wondering where can people find you if they want to check out your vocal coaching, what you do? Do you have social media platforms?
Yes, yeah. I just don't only do the voice coaching. I also give readings. I'm a psychic, but I give card readings. But I have this package where I can do it all at the same time, or just give people readings, or just give people voice coaching. So I combine it all, which is fabulous. I do have a website. It's just that I'm in the process of working on another one to replace it. But it is www.intuitivelyspeaking.uk. And I am on Instagram as Pamela Kay, Kay, intuitive. And I have got a Facebook page, Intuitively Speaking. .uk. So I am on those platforms and also on LinkedIn. And I've just changed my URL to Pamela Kay Intuitive Voice, my LinkedIn URL. So it's linkedin.com/in/Pamela Kay Intuitive Voice. That's a mouthful.
Okay, thank you so much. If you like this podcast, please do share it with a friend or family member, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank
Treat me the right way. Always love, love it for me, love it for me.